I'm Sue Sutherland. When I was first asked to participate in this panel, there were many emotions, terror being one of them. But I am grateful to be here, really grateful. It is an honor, an amazing honor, for me to be here with this very accomplished panel. I have prepared some photos for you, but I would like to start with an intro first. I was exposed early in my life to handmade items. I always wore handmade clothing. My father built a family home on Lake Athapapiscow, close to Flin Flon, Manitoba, and this was built right from the clearing of the land as I was growing up. My family depended on our ability to create, make, or repair whatever we needed. Figure skating was a huge part of my life as a child. As I spent many hours honing my skills as a young adult, I moved to Thompson, Manitoba to coach figure skating. I felt compelled to explore my artistic side. Underneath my mother's treadle sewing machine brings memories of home. Because of my mother's millinery practice, I learned to sew at a young age. Over time, I have developed my mother's skill. My greatest accomplishment was an original wedding gown for my eldest daughter, and she was willing to wear it. I am so grateful Tendrils has been included in Prairie Excellence. Color is very inspirational to me. Contrasting colors in particular are inspiring. I was drawn to the green shell beads, and I kept them in my studio, admiring them for months. When the red two-tone beads arrived for another project, I immediately put them together with the green beads. They sung out to me. There was an energy created that drove me to put them together with gunmetal wire. I feel the green shell bead is like the baby green of the first buds on the trees in the spring, an occasion that brings the promise of new life. When I put the gunmetal wire with the beads, it seemed to become more green. They cooperated, so to speak, to allow me to make the piece. At the time I created Tendrils, I was driven to make my own beads that would combine all my skills. I have succeeded in doing that somewhat, but the exploration has only just begun. Color Harmonies and Mutations 1 was inspired by color. I can get lost in seeing one color transition into another color so gradually that it's hard to know where one begins and the other ends. It amazes me how colors fit, how they alter and relate. It's somewhat like human relationships. They are always mutating. Colors change, and just like people, they adjust to circumstances. My mother has passed on now, but certainly with me while I was working on this piece. I felt we were spending time in her garden, and she always wore a hat. Being a milliner, they were pretty special hats. The lake, trees, and all that includes was very visible from that garden. My dad had built a fence around the garden with pipe and wire. Color Harmonies and Mutations 2. As a child, I helped Mom wind wool in a ball from a skein that she placed over my hands. I remember being impatient. She knit mitts, hats, and sweaters from all those balls of wool. This memory brought me to felting, which is a very interesting process. I was fascinated by the glaze colors in this piece and sought out to use them. So that was the drive to create the felted pieces. There is a tiny wheel-thrown jug on the right side that will hold water. I made it with no hole, so the wiring of it would be a bit of a puzzle. Color Harmonies and Mutations number 3. When I was working on this piece, I called it North. The inspiration was color, and I like to seek out problems to solve with wire. Although wire is a memory from home, I had never been introduced to jewelry tools until I took my sister to one jewelry making class about 3 years ago, thinking it was something she might like to do. Well, for me, it was instant love. I was amazed by how the tools felt in my hands. They were so natural to me, and the wire has such endless possibilities. My sister, by the way, hasn't touched jewelry since. In that childhood environment at the lake, I dug clay very close to home. Not only did I dig it, I sank my feet into it, sometimes gleefully up to my ankles. I had a fright one day that the clay may not let me go. Items that I made always dried and broke, but it was the making of them that mattered. The feel of the clay in my hands drove me to seek it out as an adult. I have had my own clay studio in my backyard for about the last 15 years, which, by the way, was hand-built by my husband. Color harmonies and mutations. 4. My backyard in Thompson is the bush, and the banks of the Burntwood River are very close by. These are sights and sounds I have experienced all of my life. The bright summer sun, the blue of the waters, and the greens of the landscape. When I work, I surround myself with all of the materials. That allows my process to be instinctive. I respond to the materials, the color, and my life experiences. Color harmonies and mutations, number 5. I have managed to make fabric beads that I'm pleased with, finally. These fabric beads are made from silk velvet, dyed in natural dye. I was driven by color to put them with copper wire. Dyeing fabric is an interest, and my clay studio transitions beautifully to a dye studio. I work with 3 mediums. All of these things I love to touch and have had relationships with all of my life. I feel it is making my work stronger and more meaningful as I'm able to express myself and my experiences visually. All of my knowledge of clay, fiber, and my newly found passion for wire are getting my ideas into a visual language and still allowing me the tactile experiences that I crave. I find it interesting that the communities that I have lived in all of my life are mining the metals that I am using in my newly found passion for wire. It also interests me that the wire has not come to me until now, and I have lived above the metals all of my life. Color harmonies and mutations revivify memories, number 1. Having learned to sew at my mother's side, I have combined that knowledge with skating and have created many skating and dance costumes over many years that were created to work as one with the music and the choreography. This piece uses fabrics from the last costume I made for an ice dance team that included my daughter. I use nickel wire because the skaters trained in Thompson, and Thompson is a nickel mining operation. Skating has a certain glitz, and I enjoy working with that in mind. Beading fascinates me, and it would appear that I'm starting to bead with wire. In conclusion, my work represents the accumulation of many years of gathered knowledge about the things that interest me and also skills that I have honed over a lifetime. I would like to take a moment to give thanks. I would like to thank Mentoring Artists for Women's Arts and the Manitoba Craft Council for the opportunity to do the Foundation Mentorship Program this year, and to the Manitoba Arts Council for supporting my travel to Winnipeg for the mentorship. I would also like to thank each of the participating artists in the mentorship program and to my mentor, Gaetan Sylvester. And a sincere thanks to all who have made this evening possible for me, and all of you who have taken time out of your day to come and listen to us this evening. Thanks very much.